I believe that every newborn is graced by innocence, but unfortunately, some lives are not forged in peace. These souls begin in motion, in uncertainty, in the shadow of choices already made. This is OneCrimeTV's Survivor Series. I Don't Burn Easily. Hannah Kendrick's story of survival.
And I looked at him and I said, I remember I was just like shaking like this, and I was like, you have to take me to the hospital. I'll tell him it was an accident. His eyes were so dark. That's all I could see in the room was his eyes. They were darker than anything.
Without fire.
I'm extremely grateful to share my story.
Ain't a thing can take you higher.
I hope to inspire others.
You get that which you desire through the fire.
And let them know that no matter what we go through, we can always make it through.
Ain't a thing can take you higher.
You might say Hannah Kendrick was born into a world of instability. Her mother was from Morgan City, Louisiana, but when she became pregnant with Hannah, she was living in Buffalo, Missouri. By then, Hannah's two older sisters had already been born in other states, each one a sign of a restless life forever moving. Hannah's parents weren't married. In fact, they weren't even a real couple. Whatever you choose to call what existed between them was fragile, casual, and at best uneven. Something akin to friends with benefits, only the benefits produced never seemed received by Hannah's mother. On March 11th of 1981, Hannah was born in Osage, Missouri while her father was away in Tulsa at welding school. He was 6 feet 4 inches tall, red-haired, and known for his propensity to get physical. He had a reputation for fighting, for intimidation, and he carried chaotic aggression with him wherever he went. Violence wasn't some substance-induced exception in his life. It was a pattern. Hannah's father was drawn to conflict as if destruction were stitched into the very fabric of his nature. When he heard Hannah's mother was pregnant with her, his response wasn't joy or fear or even confusion. No, his reaction was rooted in cruelty. He swore that if the child was his, he was going to, quote, kick the bastard right out of her. It was the kind of statement that should have served as a warning, the type that tells you exactly what sort of monster you're dealing with. But then Hannah arrived, and when he looked at that little red-haired girl for the first time, his whole story seemed to change. He said he never knew he could love something so much. The proud father promised to take Hannah and her sisters, along with their mother, and turn them into something new. Something whole, something safe. He promised a family. And for a moment, maybe that promise felt like light breaking through the darkness. But some promises are only merely disguised in light. For Hannah's family, this was far from the beginning of a fairy tale. In fact, it was the opening chapter of an entire book of nightmares.
I always knew from the time I can remember that my dad loved me, but he did not feel the same about my mother and my sisters. And although I was scared because of the things he would do to my mom and my sisters in front of me, he would not be violent with me. And I didn't know that this was something that didn't go on in every family. But I also knew that I was my dad's only child. So I thought that maybe that was the reason that I was treated different. And it was just extremely hard to watch my sisters go through brutal abuse. There was one time that I left the light on upstairs, and when my dad asked about the light, my older sister, who was about 12 or 13 at the time, said that she left it on. and he kicked her all the way up the stairs. And my dad was 6'4" with big, he had big workman boots on, and he kicked her all the way up the stairs. I knew that it was wrong. I just thought wrong things were normal.
For Hannah's family, these instances of violent rage toward her mother and siblings at the hands of her father were not only normal, but they were common. And while she knew her father to have a heart reserved solely for her, eventually she would find out just how cold the blood that pumped through it truly was. Hannah was around 3 years old when she recalls waking up early in the morning.
Please, God, help me.
Confused and alarmed by the sound of her father screaming obscene insults at her mom, while declaring that she was about to die because he was going to shoot her.
My dad would get up early in the morning when it was still dark outside to go to work, and my mom would always, get up and make him a full breakfast and get his lunch and stuff. And every morning it seemed like clockwork that he would just be so frustrated. He would just be screaming at my mom nonstop about whatever it was, saying that she was worthless and he should just go ahead and unalive her.
Where's my damn food, you worthless
We had 3 or 4 guns in every corner of our house. Dad killed things and brought them home and had us, take pictures with them. But I would hear him say, my mom was worthless and he ought to just go ahead and shoot her. And I can remember just rocking back and forth in my bed and just thinking to myself and praying, Jesus, please don't hear gunshots. Jesus, please don't hear gunshots. Just let him leave for work. And just praying that. But I never got out of bed and went and checked on my mom. I just knew that once, there was obviously no gunshot and the house became quiet, that he was gone. And I would just go back to sleep. I don't know that my mom even knew that I was hearing that going on. And I don't know if it was every morning, but it was more often than not. It would be crazy because, I would go from being awakened at, 5 o'clock in the morning and praying for Jesus to not let me hear gunshots. But then that evening when Dad's truck came barreling down the gravel road, I knew that I could run over to him and he'd pick me up, and he always had gentle hands with me, but only me. It was very confusing for me as a child, but I think because my sisters weren't his children, that's what made me think that it might have been okay or normal. I don't know. I didn't have anything else to base a family life off. I didn't like my dad hunting and killing things, but I knew that he was providing food for us. My father did not believe in anything other than living off the land. I liked fishing and stuff, but I definitely shot guns before I ever had a Barbie doll or a baby doll. I loved just nature in general and water, and I would catch tadpoles and frogs and climb trees. We had probably every kind of fruit tree. At 3 and 4 years of age, I was just running the countryside, the fields, and I knew once it got dark to come in. And that was usually whenever Dad was home. There were sometimes he worked jobs where he'd be gone for multiple days at a time, and then there were some jobs that he would work daily and come home that day. As soon as he would leave for work, my mom would literally deep clean the house from top to bottom. She's cleaning his negative energy out of the house. Even as a young child, I understood that.
Hannah, blinded by her youthful innocence, was not yet aware of what evil was, even though she called it Daddy. As a 6-year-old, she wouldn't have been able to comprehend the reason why her mother told her, seemingly out of the blue, that they were leaving and going to stay with her mom's friend. She would later find out the truth was that her father had been intimately violating her sister on a regular basis.
I was about 4 years old. My mom and my oldest sister had went into town for something. All three of us girls shared a bedroom together. My dad had came into the bedroom. Me and my sister were laying in the bed, and there was an old black and white TV playing like Saturday morning cartoons. And Dad came in there and wanted me to get at the foot of the bed by the TV because he wanted to lay at the top of the bed and watch cartoons with us. And he was up there like cuddling with my sister. And I was jealous because I didn't understand why he was always so mean to her. But in times like this, whenever we were watching cartoons together, he would have rather cuddled with her than cuddled with me. But it's like those thoughts and memories didn't register on what was really happening until a little later on in life. I was at least 8 years old whenever I was completely aware of the incidents that had happened with my father and what really went on. There was a time when me and Rocky were taking a bath together, which is something that we often did to conserve water. And my dad told me that I had to leave the bathroom. And it made me mad that I had to leave the bathroom and that he was in there with my sister. It's like, what would he be doing with her that he can't do with me? And when he came out, I asked him, what were you doing in there with Rocky? And he said, oh, I told her to put deodorant on her stomach. And to me, at 4 years of age, that sounded normal because I knew Heather, my oldest sister, who was like 12, 13 at the time, she was using deodorant, she was using makeup. And so that made me feel not jealous. That made me feel like, oh, there's certain things that my sisters get to do that one day I'll get to do, but it's just not my turn. And that is how I looked at what happened in that incident until later, realizing that nobody puts deodorant on their stomach.
Due to the extreme beatings and essay of her older sister, Hannah's mom decided to take her children and go. Hannah was just 5 when the 4 of them ended up on a bus to Houston, Texas. There they lived with a family friend that Hannah's mom knew from school. This friend had a big nice house that she ran a daycare out of. It finally seemed like everything was normal for once. While she remained unaware of the real reasons for the move away from her father, Hannah was finally living the life a child is supposed to have, playing, laughing, smiling, running, and jumping with other kids, while surrounded by loving family, without a care in the world. But that reality met its short lifespan the day she watched her father's truck pull up to the house. She quickly rushed over to her dad, the only kind of father she'd ever known. He scooped Hannah up into his arms and told her that they were going home. He'd gotten them a new house back in Buffalo, Missouri, and it was time for them all to be together again. Hannah was confused. Her 5-year-old mind couldn't understand what was happening.
Why did you call him? You know what we went through.
My mother's friend had decided that our time there needed to be up and she needed my mom and us to leave.
He hurt her. You knew that.
And the friend went behind my mom's back actually and contacted my dad. My mom was working to get us a place in Houston, but she didn't even give my mom enough time to get like an actual paycheck for us to even move. She had contacted my father on her own and told my dad that he needed to come get my mom and her girls or she was going to put us out.
After the unfortunate reunion, Hannah was enrolled in kindergarten at Long Lane Elementary just outside of Buffalo, Missouri. During this time, her mother and sisters continued to suffer from her father's extreme domestic violence. But after Hannah's oldest sister told a school friend about the essay of her middle sister, everything changed. One day while in school, 5-year-old Hannah Kendrick is pulled out of class and questioned by family services about her father. She told them how her dad is scary and he beats her mother up. But Hannah was still unaware of his even darker side.
I'll never forget getting pulled out of class. They needed to pull me from the classroom, and they took me into a room and they started asking me questions about my home life. And I was just very matter of fact. I've always been that way, saying, yeah, my dad hits my mom all the time. He calls her a worthless bitch all the time. And he hits my sisters. And I remember them reassuring me that they were going to look into it, but that it would not be like immediate or anything. So it was best just to go home and just act like normal. And they were, they really didn't give me any answers or anything. But later on that afternoon, when we were all on the bus on the way home, there was a cop car behind the bus. And we lived in a very rural area. I remember the upperclassmen just like making fun of the fact that the bus driver was going to get pulled over. And then the bus driver pulls up to our house, which has a long driveway. And when me and my sisters get off the bus, the cops pull in behind us and follow us up our driveway, which is pretty long. And when we walked in, my dad was sitting at the kitchen table. My dad always grew marijuana. It was something I always knew. In the attic of our house, there was always plants up there. But I looked at that just like my mom's tomatoes and cucumbers.
See, this right here is God's grass.
I just thought it was a different plant that had to grow inside. I didn't, it just something that I grew up with. And so Dad was sitting there breaking up, weed and bagging it up. And my sister Heather took me and Rocky into the bathroom, and we all like huddled together, leaning up against the door, and we were scared. And I remember crying. I remember my sisters crying, but we did not come out of that bathroom until my dad was already detained and in the cop car. They might have even drove off already before my older sister opened up the door and her and Rocky came out. And at that point, I just knew that Dad went to jail. And I didn't know if it was for what happened earlier that day or if it was for the marijuana.
Hannah's mother was given the option to pursue additional charges but neglected to do so because it meant her daughters would have been taken into custody by DFS. While Hannah's father ultimately escaped being held accountable for abuse and SA, his arrest did luckily serve as a good exit strategy for the rest of the family. It wasn't the last time she'd find herself at the mercy of a monster, though. In fact, a while after her father's arrest, when she was about 7, Hannah's oldest sister's teenage boyfriend told her that if she didn't give him,
Nice to meet you, Hannah.
let's call it a forced oral favor, that he was going to break up with her sister. Out of fear, she conceded and did as she was instructed. This resulted in a core, direct, traumatic moment in Hannah's life, one that still haunts her today. She did tell her sister later,
Oh my God. I'm so sorry, Hannah.
but they never informed their mother about the coerced assault. And unfortunately, other monsters that sought to further spoil Hannah's innocence would soon seek out and find her again. While Hannah was growing up, she and her family bounced around Missouri and Louisiana quite a lot before finally settling back down in Buffalo again when she was 8. By this time, Hannah's dad was released and had started occasionally taking her to stay with him and his new wife. While he initially seemed excited to spend time with his daughter, each visit devolved into the same violence that she'd grown up accustomed to. Only this time, she too was the target. When she got older, she eventually stopped staying at her dad's house completely. She goes into detail about this a lot more in her book. That and a ton of other things. In fact, this entire video barely scratches the surface of her trauma. Be sure and pick up her book, Heroes and Monsters. Speaking of monsters, it seems like Hannah was plagued by the unfortunate company of the absolute worst male human beings this world has to offer. Enter Ronald the Rat Maury. Hannah was 9 when she had an encounter with him.
Hi, Hannah.
I couldn't find an image of this twerp, but
I'm LaDonna's stepdad, Ron.
Hannah said he looked like a skinny rat. So let's run with this image, and I'll let Hannah fill you in on the rest.
I'm a rat.
I had a best friend that lived right down the road, which was so cool because I'd always lived out in the country. And, living in town and having friends is just
Spin faster!
so much different than playing with tadpoles and salamanders. But LaDonna was my very best friend. I was in 3rd grade and she was in 4th grade. So she was, a year ahead of me. And she would spend the night at my house, and we'd watch Beaches over and over. Every time she spent the night at my house, we watched Beaches. But at one point, I did stay the night at her house.
Sure, LaDonna, your friend can spend the night here.
And I remember it being
But we're gonna be drinking.
really strange because her parents were drinking and they didn't really ever drink around us. But LaDonna had a cot in her bed, not a normal bed. And LaDonna had asked her parents if she could sleep in their room with them.
You can come in when we finish, kid.
And they said, no, we're going to have sex, but you can come in here after. And I remember thinking, that is so weird.
Don't you think that's kind of weird, LaDonna?
Like, my mom didn't have boyfriends and stuff like that, so I thought it was really weird that they told LaDonna that. So me and LaDonna go to sleep, and I wake up to her stepdad, Ron, and he's standing over me, and he is butt naked. And my pants were pulled down to my knees, but I didn't put 2 and 2 together. When I seen Ron, I was like, oh, are you in here to get LaDonna? And he just kind of like mumbled and walked out of the room, and I'm pulling my pants up, and I was thinking that, sometimes I did take my clothes off and sleep naked as a child. So I thought maybe I just accidentally did that while at LaDonna's house. So I really didn't think anything of it, and I went immediately back to sleep. And then I wake up, Ron is at the end of the cot, and he's reaching up and he's touching my private spots. And I was fully awake immediately. And I was traumatized immediately. But I was scared, so I just started like moving my legs back and forth to make him think he was waking me up. And then I see him crawl out of the bedroom still butt naked. And I literally grabbed my shoes and just tiptoed out. And as soon as I got out the door, I ran home and I woke my mom up and I told her what happened. The next day, my mom took me to go and talk to a detective or someone.
My daughter came home crying in the middle of the night.
And they went to LaDonna's house.
Did you do it?
I ain't never touched kids, man.
And I was told that LaDonna's mother had the option of making Ron, the stepdad, leave, or they were going to put LaDonna in DFS custody. And her mother chose her stepfather. And LaDonna went into DFS foster care. And I would very rarely get to see LaDonna at school and never really get to talk to her because we weren't supposed to, I guess, be around each other. And it was a lot because I was also thinking about the times that LaDonna would brag to me about Ron taking her camping and how I would never be allowed to come. That's just something special that they did together.
Ron takes me camping, but only me. It's our thing.
So I didn't know if LaDonna was mad at me, if I had ruined LaDonna's life because she was in a foster home. I never knew how she felt. And then we went to court. I was 11 when we went to court, and I sat here and said everything just like I'm telling you right now. I didn't cry because I didn't do anything wrong. I knew he was guilty. God knew he was guilty. So basically, all I should have to do is say it just like I'm saying it right now. But for whatever reason, they didn't believe me.
In the matter of Kendrick versus Maury, we, the jury, find the defendant,
Oh my God.
not guilty.
They didn't believe me at all. And when they read off the verdict for not guilty, I think a few of them instantly changed their mind, because the scream that came out of me and the crying and the screaming that came out of me is something that I can only explain, that is a pain that is caused so deep in your soul that it literally come from the pits of hell and took me over in that courtroom. And I could not handle those feelings. I was completely enraged. I could not believe that he got found not guilty. And then, it took my mom a minute or so to get me calmed down enough to even walk out the courthouse. But then, of course, when I do walk out the courthouse, him and his buddies are high-fiving each other and hugging each other and congratulating him over what he got away with doing to me. And I remember that ride all the way home. I was kicking my mother's dashboard. I would not stop kicking it. It was a rage that had came over me that I could not control. And I was so angry. So I was still 11.
Here you go, enjoy.
Thank you, sweetie.
And my mom was a part of this AMVETS group for veterans. And they would have picnics ever so often. And they had an AMVETS picnic. It was at Stockton Lake. And I was excited because I was going to get to run one of the stands where they give out free sodas. And I see Ron coming towards me, but I'm literally in disbelief. And he has a woman with him, and she's a very beautiful woman with long dark hair. And I'm just kind of like in shock, like, is he really gonna walk all the way over here? As he's approaching me, it was almost like slow motion. And when he got to me,
Can I get a drink?
he asked me for a soda. And I just looked at him, and I'm pretty sure I screamed and just ran straight to my mom, and they told me they were going to make sure he left. And so he did. He left.
Don't you ever come near my daughter again.
So I was probably, I was 12 years old at this time. And I was at my best friend's house, and we were just outside goofing around playing, and this car pulls up and stops, and the lady that gets out is the lady with the long dark hair from the picnic.
They should have listened to you, Hannah. I caught Ron with my 3-year-old daughter.
And I was like in shock because nobody believed me except my own mother. And as far as I knew, LaDonna didn't even believe me. I asked her, how does she know that Ron did that? And I don't know why I thought that he confessed. But when she told me it was because she walked in on him doing it to her 3-year-old daughter, I had a whole nother rage come over me. It really, really, really bothered me to know that a 3-year-old girl was hurt.
Told you I was a rat.
And that it was all because they didn't believe me. If they would have believed me, then he would have probably been in prison and not even been on the streets to be able to hurt that little girl. And I know that he had went in and out of prison in Missouri, but I did not reconnect or find LaDonna until 2018 through social media, and I had looked for her ever since MySpace was created. I lived a long time thinking that I ruined LaDonna's life, that LaDonna was mad at me, that it didn't matter that I said what he did to me, it didn't save anyone. So when I finally talked to LaDonna in 2018, the biggest question I wanted to know was, are you mad at me? Did worse things happen? And she said no, she was not mad at me. She was very grateful for me. And she said that her mother still to this day did not believe her and did not believe me. And I'm kind of backpedaling, but I was about 15 years old when I was with some of my friends and we ended up at this gas station, and I look over and it's LaDonna's mom. And I looked at her and I said, Miss Brenda, because at this point, I'm 15. That happened when I was 11. He went to prison, somewhere around the age of me being 12. So by now, LaDonna's mom has to know what he did to me. And she's not just calling me a liar and all of these horrible names that she would call me and say that I was making all this up. And when I said to her, I said, how's LaDonna? And she was like, oh, she's good. And then she realized who I was, because I guess she didn't recognize me. And when she realized that it was me, she told me I was a stupid bitch and a whore that ruined her life. And I was in so much shock. I'm never speechless. And I was speechless. I could not believe that she still, even though Ron had been convicted over the 3-year-old, that she still did not know that he was hurting her daughter or that he had hurt me. And when me and LaDonna started being able to talk in 2018, she was telling me that when her mother would get her on trips, like get her for overnight or hour visits while she was in foster care, that her mother would take her to Ron's apartment and would constantly bring her around Ron. And that even just like within the last year, she sent LaDonna a picture of Ron and was saying that he was living out in Vegas and that he would love to see her. And they were like, it was like an argument that LaDonna didn't argue with her mom about it and like, I guess put her foot down about the things about Ron until like later on in her adult years. Because she told me that her mom had sent her a picture of Ron and that she told her mom, I do not want anything to do with him. I don't want him knowing anything about me. I don't want him knowing anything about my kids. But her mother still had this love for him, and she still believed in his innocence. And I'll never be able to wrap my mind around that. And I was just grateful that she wasn't mad at me. I was grateful that she said that I saved her, because I thought I ruined everything, even though I knew I was telling the truth. It was really, really difficult to wonder about LaDonna all of those years. Sadly, she battled cancer for several years from around 2019, and she lost her battle with cancer in 2023. But she had already received my book, and she read it. And when I was writing my book, I got permission to use her name. And I had asked her if she wanted me to tell the story, or if she wanted me to leave her out of it. And she wanted me to tell her story, so I did. All the camping trips, everything. He had been molesting her the whole time. And then I thought about it too, like when she would tell me about how her mom would take her to Ron's house. Something I thought I was doing to save her and other kids didn't save anything.
Well, that's because the person that should have been in charge of protection failed miserably at their job. That was not your fault. So, you did exactly what you were supposed to do. The ones that were supposed to do more to protect you didn't.
We're not promised that this life is fair, but boy, why does it gotta be so fucked up? I'm just grateful that I did get to reconnect with LaDonna, and I did get those answers. LaDonna's a really soft spot for me because she was my best friend, and I searched for her for so long. And I was never certain of,
Ron takes me camping.
did she get put in a worse situation? Did she get put in a foster home where she was getting hurt worse? Would she have rather just stayed where Ron was doing what he was doing? Because what could be happening to her now? What if she was dead? What if she got addicted to drugs?
LaDonna?
You know, all these things played out in my mind throughout my years of just not knowing. Okay, let me hit my vape and get myself together real quick. I'm sorry. We moved to Springfield the week I was turning 13. I didn't know anybody in Springfield, but I had my friends from Buffalo come up, and we lived kind of close to the square, and they had this it was a AA dance for Alcoholics Anonymous, but a bunch of underage kids would go, they would drink and then go, and we were able to hang out at the AA dance all night and dance and listen to, good music.
It was around this time that Hannah would first meet Antonio Lamar Draper. The pair were both 13.
What up, Hannah? My name Antonio.
I know who you are. You're Tim's brother. You got kicked out of my school's dance for crashing it once.
Actually, first Hannah met his brother Tim at the AA dance night. It would be a few years later that Antonio, along with the mother of his first child, would move into an apartment next door to Hannah and her mom. And while she could hear them arguing through the walls, she never witnessed any violence firsthand. That being said, foul rumors did circulate through the neighborhood. But Antonio was always able to move around the talk about him and the mother of his child.
I ain't never hit her, man. She cheated on me so many times too. I'm just trying to be a good dad. I don't need this shit.
While it's true that he did attend an alternative school, he always seemed to take care of his kid while holding a job at Waffle House and hustling illegal substances to make ends meet. Antonio and Hannah hung out platonically when they were both 17 after his friend dated and ghosted her. Then somewhere along the way, romance was sparked.
So it really just started off very casual. And then at some point we ended up kissing. And then people would be like, oh, you guys really like each other. Are you guys in a relationship? And we would both at the same time be like, no, we're not. We're just having fun, like whatever. Fast forward to October of 2000, and I had rented a house right next door to my mom. Antonio ended up moving in with me. Next thing I know, we're telling each other we love each other. And I'm just thinking I'm on this like magical cloud 9 with someone I've been friends with since I was 13. I'm 19, and like this has got to be like what all of my childhood horror and trauma was worth. You know, this really awesome guy who wants to spend all his time with me. We were together officially in October of 2000. My dad died in November of 2000. The first week of December, me and the girls had a girls' night out. The next night after the 2 Live Crew concert was the guys' night out. And so the guys went out, and Antonio didn't make it home until 8 o'clock in the morning, which would have been fine if he didn't have his daughter with him.
After confronting him about how a club night out resulted in him arriving home at 8 a.m. with his daughter, Hannah finds out that Antonio spent the night at his ex's house, and from there the seal on bad things to come was broken.
Antonio, did you sleep with your baby mama? Be honest.
Yeah, I did.
You have to get out of my house.
Babe, it didn't mean nothing. I was drunk.
Go pack your shit.
While broken up with Antonio, Hannah gets some unexpected news. She is pregnant. And because she was with someone else shortly after her relationship with Antonio dissolved, she wasn't entirely sure which guy the baby belonged to.
Somewhere around Antonio's birthday, he was weaseling his way back in. It was, you know, Hannah, you know I love you. You know, I really didn't mean to hurt you. We're having this baby. He's like, I know this baby's mine. He's like, I wanna be there for you. I wanna have this kid with you. And I'm like, all right, we'll work on it.
Antonio and Hannah were together again when Hannah's daughter was born. But when she caught him doing hard drugs in the house multiple times, their relationship reached a new level of instability. And it wasn't just Antonio who was getting high in the residence. Hannah even caught him smoking crack with his own mother. And when she did, she unleashed a verbal tirade of insults on him that triggered a side of Antonio she didn't know existed.
I had a big issue with drugs. If I didn't have an issue with having boyfriends who sold drugs, I looked at that as like a means of financial gain, not a party, a good time, something you take part in. I thought that only weak people took part in drugs. But I had issues with people doing hard drugs. And she was known for doing hard drugs, being on crack. Antonio's whole life, his mother sold everything they ever had for crack. Like, he would tell me stories about how they would bring Christmas presents and put Christmas presents underneath the tree. And then when him and his brother would wake up in the next morning on Christmas, the presents would be gone. So, like, he had a very tumultuous relationship with his mom. But she's living downstairs at my friend's house. And my friend comes upstairs and she's like, Hannah, I really think that Antonio and his mom are in her room smoking crack. So Antonio comes upstairs and I'm like, I don't want to get graphic here, but like I say something to him about being intimate because people who use those kind of drugs can't perform. And which he never would turn that down. So when he turned that down, I was like, oh, that's because you were downstairs sucking glass dick. And I said it to him just like that. He just snapped and he started punching me. He's punching me. He's throwing me on the ground. He's stomping on my face. He's stomping on my chest. He grabs the mirror off the wall. He busts the mirror over my face.
This was the first time Hannah would be left in a bloody mess. This wasn't some mutual shoving match or even a slap. It was an attack meant to cause serious harm. After it was over, Antonio simply sat on the couch and began to roll the blunt as if nothing happened. Hannah stood in the bathroom mirror cleaning the blood off her face and picking tiny shards of glass out of her skin. For a minute, she even thought her throat might have been cut and that she could potentially bleed out. Not to mention, Antonio had kicked her with such force that he left a footprint on her chest. He then instructs her to sit down and smoke with him, which she does out of fear, but as soon as he leaves, she books it to a friend's house who begs her to call the cops.
And when he left, I ran downstairs to my friend's house and I'm banging on her door because I looked in the mirror and from the glass he had broken on me, it looked like my whole throat was slit open and I had cuts everywhere. And I'm banging on, it's my friend, I'm banging on her door and his mother answered the door and I'm crying, I'm bloody, I'm cut up. And I'm telling her that I needed the phone because I needed to call my mom. And his mother looked at me and said, I am so sick of y'all fighting on Friday nights. I had literally his footprints bruised into my chest. I could barely pick up Kaden and she was only like 7 months old. And she was always a tiny little thing. But I remember like just having all these bruises on me and just being in so much pain.
She didn't call the cops. She didn't reach out to authorities for help. Because for Hannah, that bridge burned after she crossed it when she was younger. Cops, courts, DFS, and lawyers had never left her with anything other than a bad taste in her mouth. As far as she was concerned, they weren't her friends and often only made things worse. After the assault, the pair would break up again, but Antonio found his way back into Hannah's life. She would forgive him for this moment of violence, assuming it was a one-off stimulated by the drug use. But before long, he would again leave her lying in a bloody pool on the ground.
I would like to let people know that I left him for a whole year. There was a whole year of a separation between us, where I even dated someone else and I was working and I had no plans on getting back with him. I came back with Kaden to live at my mom's. But we all lived at the same apartment complex, so I'm still right by Antonio. And he is telling me how he is so upset that he ruined my 21st birthday, that he just wants to take me out. Okay, fine, I'll let you take me out. I'll let you pay for a babysitter and I'll let you take me out. We go out, we're having, I thought, a great time. But I can remember us getting in the car with our designated driver that came to pick us up. And I can remember driving through Springfield. The next thing I know, I'm on the ground, on the concrete, in our apartment complex parking lot. And Antonio is just stomping on me. I mean, he's stomping all over my face this time. He's not even stomping on my chest. He is stomping on my face. And his friend, David Cox, pulled Antonio off of me. And then Antonio took off running down the street crying. And Cox picked me up, carried me into my mom's apartment. And when David brought me in, I was just completely bloody. There was a rock embedded in my nose. I have no idea how he didn't smash my head in. And I remember David taking me to the bathroom and washing me all off. And then he laid me on the couch and the cops show up at the door. And I'm like, yeah, my baby daddy just beat the hell out of me. And I'm just beat up. And the cops didn't come into the apartment, didn't care that I was sitting there crying, didn't care what I just said. They just left. And I mean, I had never called the cops myself, but this is the one time that they got brought to a scene and they did nothing.
We could spend hours on the bad things that happened in their relationship, but again, Hannah covers all this in her book. Within its pages lie multiple bouts of pure domestic violence that would horrify you. There were obviously moments of normality, but then sheer, cold, cruel violence would strike out of nowhere. Antonio Lamar Draper is an evil and dangerous man. Much like his brother Timothy Draper, both of these guys have a propensity for violence against females. But what's to be expected out of two men raised by a mother who was known to sell their Christmas presents to get money to fund her habits? Regardless, reasons are not excuses.
I was completely done. I was actually working somewhere, dating somebody that I was working with. Antonio started becoming obsessive, and he would leave me voicemails where he was just crying.
Hannah, call me back. Man, I need one more chance. I can do better for you and the kids. This is some bullshit.
And I just felt I honestly felt nothing for him. But he was coming around even to the point of just to come over to take out my trash, because he knew that I always thought that was a man's job or whatever. And I'm done. You're not fixing to have me riding around with you. I mean, I was done when it became to the drugs, but then when it became to you being completely demonically violent with me, yeah, no, I was not attracted to him in any way, shape, or form. So I went and I filed for child support. And so we did a paternity test, and it came back that he wasn't the father. And I was like, I don't even have to deal with you anymore. But he was so sad, and it actually broke my heart, because I knew how much he loved Caden. I knew that he never wanted a paternity test. I knew that he would never ask for one. And I just felt so bad for him that we just started hanging out for friends type stuff again. Because I'm like, wow, we don't even have a kid together. Maybe we can just go back to being friends. Well, then the friends led to benefits, and then I got pregnant. And I have Kalia. And then I got pregnant again. And then I had Kiana. And then we got married.
In August of 2007, Hannah, the kids, and Antonio were all living in a house together. For a moment, it seemed as if everything had aligned for the Drapers, but that couldn't be further from the truth. While subtle and hardly noticeable at the start, it soon became apparent that Antonio had a terrible drinking problem. He struggled to keep it hidden from Hannah. Things started with Antonio coming home later and later every day with different excuses. Then one Friday, he simply didn't come home at all. Hannah was furious. After all, what kind of father goes out all night and doesn't come home to his family? The answer is a shitty one. Understandably, when Antonio walked through the door that Saturday, she went off on him. He had promised her that he wasn't drinking anymore, but he clearly was, and he didn't care. When confronted, Antonio told Hannah she was a stupid bitch if she really thought he was going to give up drinking for her. In response, Hannah destroyed all their wedding pictures before taking the kids to her mother's to stay overnight. The following day, when Hannah returned, she and Antonio were not exactly fighting, but rather existing. Then a couple of days later, suddenly, out of the blue, Antonio has an idea. He tells Hannah that she works so much and has so little time for herself that she should just give herself a night out. Hannah thinks, well, that's not a bad idea. And that Friday, exactly a week after Antonio stayed out all night, Hannah and another married friend of hers hit the town together. But what happened when she got home changed her life forever.
He got off work around, he usually got home around 11:30, but that night he got home closer to midnight. And when him and his best friend showed up, they had a whole bunch of alcohol. And I was just like, okay, that's what we're doing. And he's tries to give me a kiss, which I let him kiss me. And he's like, do you need any money? And I'm like, I mean, always, but I had a job, but he gave me some money. So our interaction was fine. You know, me and my friend, we left. We probably left at like 12 o'clock, and we come home. They have drank not only all of their alcohol, but they drank the bottle she left. She was mad that her liquor was gone, and she was just like, I'm out of here. And I was like, why'd you guys drink her liquor? And then like, nope, Tonio nor his best friend was like really talking. And so I was like, you know what? I don't gotta deal with this shit. Like, I could just go pass out. And I'm walking down the hallway, and I'm getting closer to my room. And I remember thinking to myself, you know, we hadn't been intimate in a little while. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, it's been 7 years. If he wakes me up later, he wakes me up later. Like, in an intimate kind of way. So I remember my last memories being not negative. No, I mean, they weren't the greatest, but it wasn't like my life was in danger. It was sometime after 5 in the morning. I woke up to the smell and the taste of gas at the same time. And I look, and Antonio is standing at the end of our bed. And his eyes were so dark. That's all I could see in the room was his eyes. They were darker than anything. And of course, it's dark outside, but his eyes were just a special, hollow bigness of evil. Like, I could just see his eyes more than anything. And he said, now you're gonna die, bitch. And me in the bed just went up like a barbecue pit. And I took my comforter with this arm, and I threw it as hard as I could off of me. And I went to the right side of the bed, and I just start putting myself out. And I see the blanket that I threw landed over in the closet where our clothes are hanging, and our kids are sleeping on the other side of that wall. And I'm screaming at Antonio to put that fire out while I'm putting myself out. And it's just like, I don't know, but at the time, I didn't feel pain. I was just in shock, and I was mad. I was really, really mad. And after I had gotten myself out, I come out of the room and ran into the living room, and his best friend was asleep on the couch. And I'm screaming at him, waking him up, telling him that the bedroom's on fire, that Antonio just set me on fire. And I go, like, our kitchen's like right off to the side, and I'm grabbing like big bowls that you would put like potato salad and stuff in, and I'm just throwing all these bowls and anything that could put water in it. I'm just throwing them all at his best friend and telling him that the bedroom's still on fire. And so Tonio's best friend goes walking down the hallway to see what's going on with Antonio. And then Antonio comes down the hallway, and he comes and like looks me like real close to my face. And I looked at him, and I said, I remember I was just like shaking like this, and I was like, you have to take me to the hospital. I'll tell him it was an accident. And his eyes were just still so big, and he like, as soon as I said that, he was like turning around to walk back down the hallway. And it was like, as soon as I said that and he turned around to walk down the highway, all at that same split second, it clicked in my head. He just tried to kill you. Fucking run. And I just ran out the front door. I ran to the neighbor's house and banged on her door until she answered it. And what a sight that must have been.
As you know, this video has been filled with AI-assisted cinematics to help bring Hannah's story to life. But for this last part of the video, I will simply let Hannah talk. While so far it may seem like she escaped this ordeal with minor injuries, the fact is, 63% of Hannah's body was burned. The aftermath, plus details about her injuries and recovery, are too graphic for dramatic recreations. There's also no way YouTube would allow her crime scene and hospital photos to be displayed either. Those will be available via Hannah's own Facebook page, which you can find in the description of this video. But make no mistake, this nightmare is not over yet. While Hannah is no longer on fire, her life would continue to burn.
I'll never forget being on the neighbor's porch on the phone with 911, and it was just like when I was a little girl. I was praying for Jesus to let me hear sirens. Just please, Jesus, let me hear sirens. And I see Antonio come out of our house and jump in our SUV Suburban and leave. And then I see his best friend come out and get in his car and leave. And by this time, it's daylight outside. And I'm just like on the porch, on the phone, on a cordless phone, just rocking while I'm standing up saying, Jesus, please let me hear sirens. And then it's almost like as soon as I heard the sirens, I was right on the gurney. And I'm telling them, like my kids are in the house. And then I remember telling them, Antonio Lamar Draper, Blue 99 Suburban, 1981. I remember rattling all of that off to them as I was going into the ambulance. And then my next memories are while I'm in the medical induced coma and they're, they don't realize they're waking me up or that I'm conscious, but I can feel them attacking me at all times. So I am in a medically induced coma for 6.5 weeks. And they start letting me wake all the way up. But they didn't realize that prior, while they were doing my 5 a.m. scrubbings, because that's mandatory, they have to debris your skin, essentially to get off anything that could cause an infection. And so it's a mandatory scrubbing every morning around 5 a.m. for anyone in the burn unit or anyone who's having like skin grafts and stuff like that to prevent infection. I guess I was becoming awake while they were doing these dressing changes and scrubbing me when I was still supposed to be in the induced coma. But I just felt like I was literally being attacked and tortured. And I smelled what smelled like a farm, like cow feces. Like, I think it was probably burning flesh that I was smelling. But for some reason in my mind, and I don't know if it's because I lived on a farm and we did a lot of that kind of stuff, that's the smell that for some reason I thought I was in a barn in Salem, Missouri. And that they were doing like satanic rituals on me. And I would scream at the top of my lungs, what the fuck? And I would just scream it over and over and over. And it was like out of nowhere one time it was happening. And I heard this lady's voice was so sweet and endearing towards me. And she said, no, mijo, we don't say that here. This is a Christian hospital. We say, what the fudge? And so I was like, okay, this lady might be the only one here to help me, even though I don't even think I had my eyes open. I could just hear her. And I thought, she might not be one of them, I think is what I thought in my head. And so she would say that, and I would respect her, and I would just start screaming, what the fudge? But I did it with the same anger and the same like tenacity and the same vengeance and rage as I would the cuss word. I just respected her asking me that. And I don't know. It was just, she was different than any of the other ones that were coming in and taking care of me. And then when they started letting me actually wake up, I cannot tell you how many times I woke up after being set on fire while I'm asleep. Or I'm sorry, I had gas poured on me. I was awake when I got set on fire. I don't know how in the world anyone could come into someone's hospital room and just start going at them, just start pulling stuff off of them, just start doing anything they want to do. Like, what do you think my reaction is going to be, even though I can't work my arms because they were like melted in at like 70 and 80 some degrees? Like, I had no arm, like, I had nothing to fight with other than my face or my mouth, and not even that because my face was so burnt. My lips were huge and chapped. But for some reason, I felt like I needed to escape. I felt like they were doing things to me that were not okay. I didn't believe them when they would tell me And because every time I would wake up, whether it be I'm getting woke up for my 5 o'clock shower, which means at this point now that I'm awake, they're going to take me in to a bathing room with a tub that's probably about 4.5 feet wide by maybe like 14, 15, 16 feet long. Like, it's a huge metal tub. And they would hoist me into it just up to my waist. And I would be freezing, and they would be jerking bandages off me, my whole body. Somebody would be jerking off of me, and the other person would be coming up behind them, just scrubbing me everywhere. And I would watch them put Dilaudid, which is prescription heroin, into my IV pole. And they might as well have been giving me water. It did not matter. But nevertheless, I'd go back to my hospital room after that scrubbing, and I'd go to sleep, and then I'd be woke up again by somebody, a doctor, a nurse, maybe physical therapy, maybe a respiratory treatment. And I would like kind of have to relearn each time I woke up why I was in there, the severity of it, where my children were, which was in DFS custody, because my mom got pneumonia, and she fell asleep while the DFS lady, Renee, was visiting with my children. And instead of Renee being a kind human and waking my mother up, she walked outside of our house, called her boss, called the cops, and had my children removed from my mother's care. My mother was working. She was making trips to the hospital to take care of me. And she had my 2, 4, and 6-year-old daughters. And she's 50-some, 60 years old. What do you expect? Like, this was wintertime. I was so upset when I found out they actually had put my children in foster homes. And then they told me that I would not be able to get my children back until I could walk and cook and prepare meals for my children, when I couldn't even wiggle my toe. Going in to court, going on the way to court, going into court, I felt broken, scared, in shambles. I can remember using my walker, which I was 100% dependent upon, to get into the courtroom, and they took me straight to the stand, and I believe I was breaking down emotionally, and the judge was being extremely nice and like, you know, we can take a minute and everything. And I get on the stand, and they start asking the questions that they ask. You know, what is your name? What is your address? You know, normal questions. And as they're asking me what my name is, what's my birth date, where do I live, every time they ask me a question, the part of me that is traumatized and scared is just getting angry. Every bit of fear that I have is being replaced with strength and rage all at the same time. I can't tell you how many times the prosecutor was like, can you look at me? Because no, I wanted to look straight at Antonio, because he could not even hold his head up. He had his head down like this, just crying. Like, are you serious? Do you have any idea what I went through in the hospital? So we get through the court process, and I remember getting off that stand, and I remember walking with my walker next to where he was sitting, which it was his lawyer and then it was him. And I literally, from the stand to walk to where he was, I picked up that walker and walked straight over. And I was like, you should have f***ing yourself. You're a bitch. And I continued to pick up my walker and get out of there. And I guess it was just the adrenaline and the anger that literally let me pick up my walker and move my body, because I had to get out of there. I felt like I was going to attack him. I wanted to just take my walker and just beat him 1,000,000 times with it. And I mean, obviously I didn't try to, but like I wanted to hurt him as bad or worse than he hurt me. I mean, and I'm also 26 years old, and the only things I know in this world that have given me happiness are the children I gave birth to. Every other memory in my life is fucking traumatizing. It's traumatizing. And so, you know, oddly enough, whenever I left that court date, I still needed my walker after I left. I was in a real bad mood. I was really mad that my kids were in foster care. I was just mad in general, and I just wanted to be left alone. I just wanted to be left alone. I had been in the hospital for months, people coming in doing whatever they want to do to my body, being told that I'm going to have a feeding tube or I'm going to die, being told this, being told that, I'm going to die. If I had $1 for every time they told me I was going to die, I remember going home and telling everybody they need to leave me alone. And they had gotten my bed put in the living room, and they got me a potty at the end of my bed so that I could, you know, shimmy to it, potty, and get back in bed if I needed. And then they had keys to my house where they could come and check on me when they got there, but I didn't want anyone around me. And so I had made it through a night and a morning, and I get up to go to the bathroom, and right next to my potty chair in the end of my bed is a fireplace, a non-working fireplace. But I get up to go to the potty, and I literally fall and crack my head on the fireplace, and I had to lay there until somebody finally came with a key. I couldn't get to the phone. My arms, I couldn't use them. I couldn't wiggle my toes, really. I mean, I could, but I couldn't. Like, I couldn't pull my body to get anywhere. So I just had to lay there. That was something to experience. So after that, I let Brother John from the local church that my kids had been going to, I would let him come, and he would sit with me all day and all night. And if I wanted to talk, he'd talk. If I wanted to smoke weed, he'd step out. If I wanted to smoke a cigarette, he'd step out. And he'd sit there and he'd just read his Bible. He never judged me. He never questioned me. He never did anything but be 100% supportive of whatever I needed in that moment. And I don't know where that man is today, but God bless that man. Because I needed that. I needed that stranger that just was there for the right reasons. And he sat there and he prayed for me the whole time. And those prayers worked. Because I'm here, right? So I knew Antonio was going to be getting a considerable amount of time, because in the beginning, you know, the prosecutor wanted to give him 60 years. So I didn't want to take anything else away from my children than what he already took. And I also wanted them to have the moment that I got to have with my dad, which was confronting my dad when I was 13. So that actually happened with my children pretty early. They were 2, 4, and 6, like I said, when it happened. And I want to say Kalia, who was a 6-year-old at the time, she was about 8 or 9 years old, and she's on the phone with Antonio, and I can just hear her saying, "No, but why did you burn my mom? No, but why did you burn my mom?" And so I had gotten the phone away from her after I realized she wasn't getting any answers. And when I got the phone, he was just crying, and I was like, you know, she wants to know. And at this point, he had not been sentenced yet. And so I wanted to know. And he had been telling me, you know, I'll tell you everything, you know, after court is over is when we can, you know, have this conversation or whatever. And hopefully I can give you, you know, whatever answers. And so as soon as he had been sentenced, I went the very next week and signed myself up to visit him. And the CO, which is the guard that works at the jail and does the visitation, looked at me and looked at the name Antonio Draper and looked at me and goes, "Why are you here?" And I was like, "Oh, you're about to find out why I'm here." And he was like, "Okay." And so there's just like these rows on one side and a row on another side. And at first I'm sitting down because we're waiting on them to bring the inmates in. And I'm sitting down and I'm sitting there and I'm pretty sure I'm rocking. And then I see Antonio come in. And as I see him come in, I mean, if I could have got through that glass, I would have. I could not control myself. I just started screaming obscenities at him. Told him he was a bitch. He should have just killed himself. Look what he did to me. Because when he saw me in court, I always was bundled up, and so he didn't see any of what damage was done to me. The fact that I had purple stripes all the way up and down my legs. The fact that my arms were like hamburger and I had to keep having surgeries. And that's just the physical part. Like, I'm mentally all the way off now too. And I'm just screaming obscenities at him. And I don't know why the CO didn't just like stop the visit and just kind of like maybe even just, you know, calm me down a little bit. But he let me go off that whole 15 or 20 minute visit. And I kind of felt bad because the other people that were there visiting their loved ones, their visit was overshadowed. Even though we were supposed to be like talking on a phone through the plexiglass, I did not need a phone. This voice, I was going off. And Antonio was just looking at me like he cannot believe that I'm saying all this stuff. And one of the last things I said to him is I said, you go in there into your cell and you look in your bubble mirror and tell yourself what a coward piece of worthless shit you really are. And just a bunch of FUs and obscenities. And, you know, when visitation was over, it stopped. Actually, I think I actually left early on my own because I didn't have anything else to say. I don't, to this day, have a reason as to why he did what he did. He told the judge that I never cheated on him. He told me that he was prepared for us to split up and he was going to take our Suburban and that he was looking forward to being single. So he doesn't know why he set me on fire. He just knows that it was like he watched himself do it. And that's not enough for me. That's still not enough. And I don't think there is a good answer, because if he ever gave me an answer that was good enough for me or any of you in the world to justify why he did what he did to me, wouldn't that make me and all of us just as crazy as him? I don't want to reach that level of evil. I have enough things in this world to be angry at, including what Antonio Draper did to me. But I don't want to be angry anymore. I want to be happy. I want to, you know, I didn't know I was going to live to be 45 years old, especially when being set on fire at 26. So the last thing I want to be in this world is unhappy for any reason, because I spent too much of my life living like that. So when someone says it can always be worse, don't ever, ever discount the degree of how bad it can be, because it could be bad. And when I've thought about myself throughout the years, when I've thought about the situation, I've thought about how grateful I am that I'm not at a hospital bed with my child fighting leukemia or anything else that comes into this world that takes us away from our babies. Everybody has a story, and there's no first place pain. I tell you what, I would go through what I went through 1,000,000 times over than to have to deal with the loss of a child. And that is a pain that no one on this earth, I feel like, should feel. I look at people who have lost children and I'm just like, my life's been a breeze compared to what you've went through.
One thing you've done through the heat you've loved and you've been loved, you know? And unfortunately, when you were on the giving end of that equation, you know, you received unbearable heat at times, but the times that it was mutual, like with your daughters, it's been worth every moment. And I think it's really beautiful what you just said, that you'd go through it all again, because you know what? A lot of people say they walk through hell for their kids, but they don't mean it. But you have. You literally have, you know.
I would do anything for them.
You know? So, beautifully put. I mean, I was going to have you, the last part there was to have you speak directly to the survivors, but I don't think I want you to say anything more because it would be staged. I think what you just said was beautiful.
It definitely came from my heart. I definitely meant it because I got 3 beautiful daughters. They're all self-sufficient, independent, work, pay their own bills. I got 2 grandkids. Man, I could have fucked them up a lot worse. It's never a boring life.
I met one of them today, and she just seems so lovely and intelligent and educated, and she got a real phone.
Hannah's daughters all give her grief about the quality of her phone. One might even call it a Flintstone phone. Luckily for her, I plan to use this month's Patreon earnings to fix that for her so that she can finally have a leg up on the competition. Previous Patreon earnings already went to purchasing the camera surveillance system she now has set up in her house for protection. Protection she may very well need soon. We shot Hannah's interview segments together with me monitoring live via Facebook Messenger and guiding her daughter how to set up the camera, mic, and lights we rented for the occasion. It wasn't an easy task for someone that's never used professional gear, but she did a fantastic job. Hannah is currently fighting for something called Hannah's Law, and it's a fantastic idea. This is a registry for extreme violent offenders. We have one for those that essay others. But what about those who try and intend to kill or grotesquely injure others? Shouldn't you have the right to know when someone like Antonio Draper moves into your neighborhood? Shouldn't there be a list for people like him? The answer is absolutely yes. You see, Evil Antonio will be released in October of this year. Sure, his time is served, but is anyone really under the illusion that this loser will have changed just because he spent 20 years in prison? Can someone explain to me how that would cure his wicked nature? Can someone tell me how spending a lot of time in bunking with other dudes and showering with other males is going to make you nicer to people? How it's going to make you no longer a threat to those you like to set on fire? I don't know. Sometimes I think the language of justice is in Braille and I just don't see it. Antonio tried to kill Hannah and he ran. While it should be noted that before Antonio and his friend left the house, they did put out the fire in the bedroom. But you don't get brownie points for that. If you put a knife in someone, you can't negate the action by removing it. At the end of the day, he tried to kill Hannah and he ran. He left his young daughters in the house and everything. When are we going to come to terms with the fact that there's no fixing people like him? The only difference between Antonio serving a life sentence for murder and now is Hannah's unbelievable will to survive. Yet simply because she didn't die, she will now be punished with the fear of soon knowing he's free. And he shouldn't be. Hannah suffers lifelong complications because of what he did. This includes lung problems like COPD. In fact, if she ever dies, and her passing can be linked to those complications, I would 100% call Antonio a murderer. Besides, what's the difference? That is what he intended. Still, in a few months, he will walk. So Hannah fights for Hannah's Law to make others aware of people like him. And we should too. It's a fantastic idea. I want to know where the monsters are in my neighborhood. You can find a link to the fight down below. Please support it. It's one of the main reasons why I made this video. You can also find Hannah's socials and her book in the description on this video too. For her, this battle rages on with mixed feelings and a cold, baked-in numbness revolving around the monster that is Antonio Lamar Draper.
I think about my mother, who was called at 7 o'clock in the morning, was told he set her on fire. We don't know if she's alive. My mom had to go get my babies from my neighbor's house early, 7 o'clock in the morning, and she did not even know if I was even alive until after 5 o'clock that evening. And then, just because I was alive didn't mean I was going to stay alive. I had a 28% chance of life because I was burned 67%. When I think about Antonio being released, how can I not think about it? Every day is a day that I'm closer. And it's not like a day that I'm closer 5 years down the road. I mean, it's March. He gets out in October. I don't know how to deal with that. I've never met anybody who has dealt with that. As far as the aspect of us sharing a grandson together and sharing children that love us both. At least for sure my middle daughter, wants to have a relationship with her dad. I honestly think that I might be more scared of myself and how I might act rather than how I'm scared of him. I don't have fear in me for him other than the rage that he invokes and everything that's been taken from my children. It's not necessarily what's been taken from me. It's the mother that was taken from my children that could have done so much more better than what I did. And so I'm extremely angry, and I try to let that go because it doesn't serve me. I do plan on getting a lifetime restraining order. And like I said, not just because of him, but because of me. I talked to my psychiatrist. I've had the same psychiatrist for 6 years. And, I guess just being honest about my feelings and not trying to act like it would be okay for me and him to be on the phone again. It's not. Like, I can't fake it to make it. There was one point when we were talking that we thought maybe, or I thought maybe we could do like a Zoom call counseling to where maybe we could get a family therapist to try to counsel us through this so that, when my daughter gets married and has more babies in the future, the things that you can't duplicate times 2, that she wouldn't have to split us up. But I know now, at least today, without a doubt, under no circumstances do I want to be within any vicinity of Antonio Draper. And I've recently started having dreams that I can't control about him surprising me, thinking it's a good thing, sending his friends over. And like in my dream, it's almost like when I went through spiritual warfare, because in my dream, it's the anticipation of seeing him. It's like I know he's coming around the corner, but then he doesn't show up. And then I just wake up out of my dream and
I am angered by the genuine look of fear in her eyes right here. I hope this nightmare never comes true for Hannah. Speaking of nightmares, Antonio, I assume there's no way that you won't see this video, so I figure I better address you here. Stay away from this woman and her family. You don't deserve them, and if you've really changed, first of all, well done, that's very Jesus of you. But if true, I assume you'll understand that you need to leave her alone. You'll move far away and you'll never contact her again. 'Cause you see, Puff Daddy, you're unwanted, and there ain't no difference between you and a murderer. If it wasn't for Hannah's strength, you'd be one right now. You're pathetic, unpredictable, and incurable. But Antonio, you're only dangerous to defenseless women lying in their bed. But Hannah's my friend now, so if you enjoy your freedom, do yourself a solid favor, buddy, and don't go near her. For the rest of you, thank you for watching this Survivor series. I'm Mr. Black, and with me,
I am Hannah Kathleen Kendrick Draper, and I don't burn easily. This is One Crime TV.
There were ashes where I slept upon my sheet, sleeping peacefully, oblivious to smoke and gasoline. But the fire did not burn enough concerning my belief, for I've suffered from the heat, but never once defeat. From the ashes I am, from the ashes I stand. from the ashes I turn. If there's one thing I've learned, I don't burn easily.